Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the LAN Party Podcast. Today is Tuesday. What is it? The day, 2 days
The
before,
29th?
2 days before Halloween.
That is correct. Or, for some people, a couple months before Christmas because they're already getting ready. So today
3 days before nonstop Christmas music.
Yeah, pretty much.
Woo.
Today is going to be one of our signature. We only have them every now and again, but when we have them, they're a lot of good fun. Rage casts, because as is custom with our podcast, we stream it on Tuesday, and something big always happens on Wednesday. And boy, oh boy,
Did something big happen last week?
So we talked a little bit about it last week, right? About Fallout 76 and how they were getting ready to launch private worlds, and I was excited for the update and this and that and the other.
And we also gave them the benefit of the doubt, like they're postponing their DLCs and stuff like that, so they can maybe focus on new titles coming this
Right.
selection.
We
winter season.
We had hope.
And then they went and dashed it.
So
they went and took that good faith and threw it straight down the toilet.
If you've been living under a rock for the past week, and
you may have heard of this new thing Bethesda implemented in Fallout 76.
Yeah, so we now have something called Fallout First. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying Fallout 76 is over a year old now. So bear that in mind. We had no idea this was coming when the game launched. They gave us no indication that this was something to expect. But Fallout First is a subscription service for Fallout 76 that costs a staggering $13 a month
or
$100 a year.
And with this subscription, you get what?
Yeah, so here are where my problems lie. You get a private world, and I'm going to touch base on the private world thing. I'm going to touch base on a lot of these things individually here in a few minutes. But you get a private world that you can invite yourself. You can play yourself with up to 7 friends on your private world, which is, I expected you were going to have to pay in some regard for private sessions. You get the scrap box, which has unlimited storage for all of your scrap components. Something that players have been asking for since the dawn of fucking time. You get a placeable survival tent that essentially gives you a second free fast travel spot. You can just put it down wherever you want, and it's got a camp. It's got all the amenities that a camp would need: a place to cook and build all your stuff, and a place to sleep. It even has an instrument so you can get the in-tune bonus or whatever. You get an exclusive NCR veteran armor. Or veteran armor. I don't think it's actually NCR in this game, but you get exclusive Ranger veteran armor that only Fallout First members get. Again, another highly requested thing for Fallout 76. And a handful of exclusive emotes and icons. And I don't think I'm missing anything, but I probably am.
And all of that costs you as little as $100 every single year.
So, let me look at I actually put together an outline today because I wanted to guide myself on how I was going to grow people today. Because it's coming. Because this is the straw that broke the camel's back for me with Fallout 76. So, anyways, I just have Fallout First. So I'm going to go kind of over in detail what some of these things include. First and foremost, there's a lot of people out there that are like, Bethesda never said we were going to have to pay for these private worlds, blah, 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 blah. And that is not true. If you go and look at the post where they announced private worlds were coming the following week, carefully read the verbiage they used, because they said for players who pay for this service, they will have access to their own world, and they'll have a private world selection at the top of the game. So just to get that out of the way, they were upfront about us paying for it. However, the way they implemented this, I feel, was very sleazy. And there's also a large number of people that are upset because private worlds are not free, because this is a Fallout game and Fallout games are supposed to be solo. I get that argument, but at the same time, it's also a multiplayer game.
Yeah, that's fair, but I mean, it's sure paying for private worlds, okay, whatever. But $13 a month?
No, I'm not defending that.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm just saying that yeah, private worlds, maybe I would expect to see it, be a paid feature. But
right.
As steep as what it is,
right.
It's just kind of silly.
The thing though that there's a lot of people, and I think they're mad more about other things, but for some reason they're focusing their anger on the private worlds, but they're like, we shouldn't have to pay for a knowingly Fallout feature because Fallout is a single player game. I'm like, yes, Fallout 1 through 4 are single player games. Fallout 76 was designed, advertised, and sold as a multiplayer game. And any multiplayer game you buy, you will have to pay for a server should you decide to host one. 9 times out of 10. Sometimes you can get the servers and run them on your own, but if that's you going through all the work. That's about the extent of my support for Bethesda in this whole shebang. Also, somebody had a fantastic idea. Have a free plan with the private world where you can host a private world and invite 5 players, so you can have a 6-player private world. And then you have the people that are Fallout First subscribers could have a full 24 players on their world. Because that's the other thing I want to get into on private worlds. 8 fucking players. I'm paying you $13 a month or $100 a year.
And you can't even let me fill the server.
You're giving me a fucking quarter of a server? Not even that. That's bullshit. That's ridiculous.
I can imagine them giving away free servers where it's just okay, you can invite 4 people. But I mean, paying for that much of stuff to be limited in the amount of players you could choose.
Right. And
not even to the max of the server capacity.
Right. And my problem, here's where so first and foremost, this was met with abundance of backlash.
Yeah, tons of backlash.
Bethesda has had their asshole ripped a billion times since this fucking announcement came out. There are tons of videos on it. There are gaming news outlets. Some player actually bought the Fallout First domain because Bethesda just didn't register the domain, and he turned the announcement page into a mockery.
Into a parody.
The original announcement.
It's so funny.
And he's since made national news. That is how explosive this was. And it's somewhat died down now. It's still present, but it's more in game, and we're going to talk about that later. But it's not right. And my problem with it lies, don't get me wrong, all the stuff that I just ran off to you for $13 a month, man, that's a fucking steal. But here's where my problem lies. It is not the value. It is what I am paying for. And or on the flip side of that, what somebody else may not be paying for.
But it's also, a game that you have to buy outright anyways.
That's the other thing. So
having a subscription on top of that is just
I have made
extra pain.
I've made it pretty clear what my stance is on microtransactions. I'm at the point they're not going anywhere. Whether we want them to or not, they're here to stay. It's just the way the gaming industry is now. As unfortunate as that is, no matter how much people whine and complain and yell, you're going to get the whales that borrow mom and dad's shark cards or mom and dad's credit cards and buy shark cards or buy premium currency, whatever. So I've gotten to the point where I'm just learning what I tolerate as far as microtransactions are concerned. And locking features behind a paywall is not one of those. Locking something that other players, a gameplay feature that I can't have access to, is where the line is drawn. Because now I've paid full retail price for a game and I'm not getting the whole game anymore.
Yeah. You've paid for the game, but you got to pay more
to get the rest of the game.
To get the rest.
And the features I'm namely talking about are the scrap box and the survival tent. Because both of those are gameplay mechanics that assist in the game enormously.
Yeah.
Because, for one, fast travel... Look, when I built my camp, I was about aesthetic, not about location. Some people build their camp for location. I don't think you did. You used to, but you quit. Nick built his camp for location because you have to pay to fast travel in Fallout 76, but you can fast travel to Vault 76 for free, and you can fast travel to your camp for free. My camp is on the northwest fucking corner of the map. You can't get further northwest than my camp. So if I want to fast travel anywhere, if it's not in the northwest corner of the map, it costs an arm and a leg. But if I had a second camp that I could put somewhere central on the map, that's a pretty close radius to everything, well, that would save me a bunch of caps. But since I don't pay $13 a month, I don't get that privilege.
Nope.
And that is, of the two features that are gameplay features locked behind this paywall, that is the least arguable one. The one that has me the most fired up is the fucking scrap box. Because...
yeah, that's been a problem since day one of the game.
Day one of the game, we had... what did we have? We had 400 pounds of storage?
I believe so.
And we all bitched about... everybody bitched about that. This is too much. That we don't have enough... Here's where... the problem stems from the fact that you've built a game that literally revolves around gathering junk and rebuilding.
And then you don't have enough space to carry all your junk.
And you cap it at 400, and they're like, okay, we hear you guys, we're gonna push it, and we're gonna continuously raise the storage limits as far as the game can handle it. Then they increased it to 600, and we're like, oh, okay, cool. That lasted about 3 hours, and then we were full again. Then they increased it to 800, and that lasted probably, a couple days, maybe a couple weeks. But we eventually ran out of space again. And they finally came out and said, I recall 2 posts, but the one that's surfacing the most is the one that I do remember the most. They could not push stash capacity past 800 pounds.
Because they said it would break the game.
Because the game could not handle it.
And then all of a sudden they're like, we can do that. You just have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Fallout First would be a defensible thing if they didn't already have a microtransaction store. If they didn't have a microtransaction store and then they released Fallout First and was like, well, we need the generated income to keep developing the game and making sure everything's patched and all that stuff. But they can't hide behind that because they already have a really overpriced fucking microtransaction store in the game.
Exactly. But I was so mad because they told us, and again, I mean, this is what you get for believing a game developer anymore, but they're like, we cannot raise the stash limit to unlimited because the game physically cannot handle it. And then they're like, oh, well, actually we can, it just costs you money. So...
yeah, we can do that. $100, please.
And it gets worse. Because it turns out I don't think the game actually could handle it. Because the story developed over the following days of the announcement. Because, unfortunately, some sad souls actually bought the fucking subscription.
Right.
So for some people, would pay for the subscription.
And it didn't work.
But it didn't work.
They wouldn't get their stuff.
Other people would try to enroll in the subscription and they couldn't pay at all. It would not let them. Other people successfully paid for and enrolled in the subscription, got into the game, put all their scrap in the scrap box, and did their thing, and came back and it was gone.
Ooh.
All of it.
Yikes.
Rip.
And Bethesda came out and said, look, we hear you all about the scrap box. We're investigating it, but what it seems to be is a UI issue where the scrap is not appearing in the inventory, but it actually is there physically. So a good way to make sure is to just go and repair a weapon, and it will pull the scrap from the scrap box in the workshop. And they kind of said it in a looking down. They're like, we've investigated it. We'll continue looking at it, but at the moment, we're certain that this is it, and we'll get the UI fixed as soon as possible. Well, then about 2 hours later, they came out and said, so we've investigated more reports regarding the scrap box, and it turns out that there are some players that are actually experiencing a total loss of scrap.
Rip.
And I'm like, okay, first off, don't make everybody look like a fucking idiot and be like, yeah, it's just, it's there. It's just a
You're
UI
just
bug.
pushing the wrong button.
Second off, they haven't, how do you compensate players back scrap?
Yeah.
How do you give...
You owe me 800 pounds of screws, please.
I mean, so here we've got an already hated program that they rolled out into the game, and it was fucking broken.
From the jump.
And the private worlds, by the way, are not private. You can't... They even worded it in their post, private worlds that you can configure to your heart's content or whatever. It is just a friends-only world. It is not private. So you join the world, and you may be the only one in it, but if Nate's playing, and he's like, oh, look, Austin's in a world, I'm going to join him, he can join me. Which, that wouldn't be a problem, but for the big merchants in the game that have huge friends lists because they buy and sell goods for people...
Right. They just have a bunch of randos jumping
into their solo game. Not to mention, there are reports of looted worlds when people load in to their private sessions. People said they would visit locations on the map, and the enemies would be dead, and the containers would be looted. And Bethesda's like, well, this is just a common instancing thing that Fallout 76 has because we make it so that you can't just jump from server to server and explore certain places. And to an extent, that's true, but I feel like the players that are complaining about this know that. Like, they're not going into a public game and looting an area and then going back in a private game and going, okay, it's going to be different. Like, these people probably booted up the game for the first time in like a fucking week because the game came out with this update and they got the subscription and they went to their favorite place to loot and nothing was there. So I can't fathom where this decision came from or who thought it was a good idea, but it has spawned some pretty comical things. So aside from the whole mockery website thing, there have obviously been, fan complaints and fan outcry and people that genuinely like the game, like myself, but they don't want to support this. And they've gotten to be rather creative in their voicing of their opinions. So some people take to social media and they tear Bethesda a new asshole, which is fine. Do that. Whatever. They deserve it. Some people buy domains, mock Bethesda's announcement. It's fine. Do that. They deserve it. But the real champs are the ones that protest from within the game, because they go into the game without being a Fallout First subscriber, and there are pictures all over the place of like groups with just a bunch of the picket sign weapons walking around outside of Vault 76. Like, everybody on the server will have a picket sign weapon and they'll walk outside of Vault 76, and some of them will be chanting, down with Fallout First or elitists or whatever. Like, they're ripping Fallout First, a new one, from within the game. And they're doing it in front of Fallout 76 or Vault 76 because when people that are new to the game leave the vault and see that, they're like, we want to send a message to those people that, this is wrong. People set their camps up with billboards that say fuck Fallout first and fuck Bethesda with neon lights.
Nice.
Somebody even went as far as naming their character, like their gamer tag. They changed it to "fuck Bethesda Game Studios" or "fuck Bethesda GS" or something like that. And I'm like,
beautiful.
Dude is a real trooper. But it gets even more sinister because as a Fallout First member, we mentioned you get special emotes, special player icons, and such and such. You have the choice to equip those items. It is not mandatory. When you get them, they don't just automatically equip.
Right.
But if you are seen to be a Fallout First subscriber, there are several reports of players targeting Fallout First subscribers within the game and doing what Fallout 76 could be considered griefing, which is really hard to do in the game because they've made adventure mode real passive. And while I don't condone griefing in any way, shape, or form, I just find this astoundingly funny. Because the one thing I feel like as a game developer that you don't want to do to your community is split it.
Yeah.
You can have people that have one, play style and another play style, but when you create such a rift in the community...
Yeah, when you create basically different classes of player.
It's class wars is what it is. And the funny thing is, like, there are actually comments too. They're all over the Fallout 76 forums, but there are people making comments verbally in game, making themselves, they believe because they pay for the game, they are superior to the rest of the people who don't pay every month or every year. And I swear to you, they have created a class diversion in Fallout. And while it's an interesting thing to watch, it's wrong.
It's really sad.
It's absolutely twisted. That should not be... We play video games to escape the problems of real life.
Yeah, not to involve classism back into that shit.
Exactly. I don't want to get into Fallout just to go, man, I'm still fucking poor. Even in my video game, where money is fake, I am poor. It's just ridiculous.
It's honestly really sad. What's your opinion, Nate?
Yep.
I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm probably done with Bethesda Game Studios, at least until...
Yeah, well, shit, dude. It doesn't bode well for the new titles they're launching.
No, I am terrified for Elder Scrolls fans.
Yeah, I'm super nervous about Elder Scrolls 6 at this point. Like it's been like a creeping nerve thing where it's like, okay, maybe they'll just keep it okay. Maybe it'll be all right, and then new things develop, and it's just like, maybe I won't pre-order it, and then it's like some new developments come out, and it's like, okay, maybe I won't buy it first day, and then some new things come out.
Maybe I won't buy it first year.
Yeah, maybe I'll wait a year, and then this comes out, and it's like, maybe I just won't get it.
Because, like, look, and I feel like this might be breaching the realm of somewhat of a conspiracy theory, but, okay, so look, this is not the first time Bethesda has tried to monetize stupid shit. And I'm going to explain why this is my theory here in a moment. Back several years ago, Bethesda tried monetizing the Steam Workshop mods for Skyrim. That lasted less than 2 days before they took it down. Why? Because players didn't want to pay for something that
they could get for free.
Right.
And better quality.
Or, so they monetized the Steam Workshop. That lasted 2 days. They took it down. A couple years go by. Fallout 4 sees the launch of the Creation Club. Paid mods. Official mods, as Fallout would like to call it, or as Bethesda would like to call it. They're not paid mods. They're small content expansions.
Except they're
paid mods.
Basically mods, and a lot of them are were actual mods that were worse, and you had to pay for them.
And it was shortly then after implemented into the special edition of Skyrim, the remaster, whatever. Now, here is where things start to get funny. They still supported the Nexus. They still said, look, people don't have to get their mods through the Creation Club. They're more than welcome to get mods through the Bethesda Net mod list, or they can go to third-party softwares or services and get their mods. But I know, and this may not be the case, but I know somebody in that studio was like, man, imagine if we had total control over mods. Imagine how much money that could generate us. So when Fallout 76 started getting developed, they're like, okay, look, we don't have private worlds now, because they've made it clear from ages ago, players would be able to mod private worlds. Even before the game came out, Todd Howard was on an interview, and he's like, look, we know that mods are a huge part of our games, and our community is fantastic, and they really flesh out the game's replayability. He's like, we are looking at working on a way to implement private worlds so that players can mod their private worlds and play the mods with their friends. Then when the table discussion came around for Fallout First, somebody's like, I know exactly where to put private worlds. Right behind a paywall. And they're going to be like, okay, well, I mean, that's a good idea, but what makes it so special? And they're like, they'll have to pay $13 a month to fucking mod their game. They've just killed the modding community for 76.
Yeah.
Because first off, in order for a mod to be developed for Fallout 76 by the community, that community member is going to have Fallout First to test it in the game and make sure it works. And if I'm a mod developer building mods for fun on a game,
you don't want to have to pay every month to do that.
No, I'm not making any money back on it, and I don't want to, but I don't want to pay to do it either.
Lose money for it.
Right.
You don't want to actively pay a company to give them new content.
So you've already axed a load of content creators, because now those people are not. There is going to be a significantly lower number of content creators for Fallout 76. So now you have a lower pool of mods, a lesser pool of mods. And of that pool of mods that might still be there, guess what? There's going to be an even lower number of players because you have to pay to get a private world to mod. Bethesda finally found a way to make us pay for mods.
Finally. They've discovered the truth.
I guarantee you that's what it is, because they're still going to say they're not paid mods, because you don't have to pay for the mods. The mods are free. You get the mods for free. Download all the mods you want. Oh, but you have to pay for the private world part. Yeah, that's something you have to do. So, I wholeheartedly, and again, this greed will not stop. They need their Star Wars Battlefront 2 moment. They need such a public outcry that serious action is taken.
They need the the Star Wars story solo movie boycott that happened to Disney. They need that to happen. So whenever what is it, Starfield or whatever their new IP comes out, nobody should buy it.
Well, at this point, they're getting to a point where they might not. They might do it on their own without, any sort of. Because again,
it's just people should.
The more dumb shit they do to Fallout 76, the further it damages the game's reputation. It baffles me how far they've fallen in a year. Bethesda used to be revered as one of the greatest RPG developers of the modern era.
And then, Fallout 76 happened.
And you know what? There were people that were skeptical of 76.
Fallout 4 happened, and then 76 came out. It's like, okay, we still have the same problems. And Bethesda's like, no worries, we'll fix it. And then
they started working and fixing it.
But then they still had debacle after debacle after debacle. And then this happens.
And it blows my mind. Like it's like they're actively trying to damage their reputation. Because they're not making any good decisions, with the exception, in my opinion, of pushing back Wastelanders, which got them a lot of backlash because people are fucking dumb. But that's the only good decision they've made in the past 2 months.
Except in light of this, I feel like it was just let's push this back and push this instead.
Well, there's a lot of people that thought that they were originally set to launch together, and the launch of Wastelanders would probably take the heat off of the Fallout First subscription.
That makes sense.
But when they pushed back Wastelanders, ZeniMax was still like, oh, yeah, no, that's got to go out on schedule. So,
oops.
I can't. The whole cliche, oh, how the mighty have fallen, literally holds.
You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
And it's so. I remember way back when EA was just fucking shit up left and right, and GTA 5 was fucking shit up left and right with their microtransactions. I'm like, man, at least we still have Bethesda.
Yeah, everybody was like, at least we still have Bethesda, and I guess that went straight up to their heads.
Now it's at least we still have Rare.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts at this point. I'm not hopeful anymore.
But it does. I mean, it's seriously not good for the future of Bethesda. Like, I honestly, even people that don't play Fallout anything, Elder Scrolls fans that are just Elder Scrolls fans exclusively, there's no way that they've missed the news of Fallout First, and all of the news of Fallout 76 is just continual downward spiral.
Yeah, it's gonna be a problem no matter what. No matter what happens, it's gonna bleed over into their other games.
And it's not gonna stop until they get a wake-up call. Oh, and by the way, we are 6 days since the release of Fallout 76's Fallout First subscription, and they have not put out one official statement at all regarding the outcry and the backlash to defend themselves or to try to band-aid the situation. The only statements they've put out are in regards to the bug fixes regarding the Fallout 76 subscription. And they've also posted, join us next month for our photo contest featuring stuff from Reclamation Day. And then they posted about their Halloween event and all of their Atomic Shop fucking sales and bundles and whatever. They've completely glossed over the whole fucking outcry. So, there's also a lot of talk that ZeniMax is trying to sell to, and that they're pushing their publisher or their developers to get a constant stream of revenue.
So they can make a public bid and publicly trade the company.
Right.
But God damn it, I really hope they don't, and I really hope that if they do, they don't become trash. But they're already pushing to become trash regardless.
Well, a lot of people are actually hoping that ZeniMax publicly trades assets, and a lot of people are hoping that Microsoft ends up with the rights and the ownership of all of ZeniMax's property. Because then, you know, they're under the head of Microsoft, who, let's be real, has no issue at all making money. I mean, they practically bathe in it. They turn on the faucet and dollar bills come out. So,
I mean, they fucking own Windows.
Yeah.
So,
the biggest computing platform in the world. So, I honestly, like, if it means Microsoft has a chance at purchasing and owning the property of ZeniMax and maybe fixing this
absolute shitstorm that they started,
then fucking let ZeniMax sell. But I tell you right now, none of this can be good for ZeniMax either. I don't know why. Like, yeah, sure, constant a constant revenue flow would look good on a sales report to, you know, put in a public bid for trade. But unless the buyer is just absolutely clueless,
yeah, they're ruining all their good faith. Which means their future prospects might not be good, and all you have to do is your brand loyalty.
Yeah,
and they're losing people left and right front and center from this.
But I don't want to dwell on Fallout too much because we've already done it for 30 minutes. So I want to move on. We're still going to keep with the microtransaction discussion because, again, this is a fucking rage cast and we're going to bitch and moan and, to some extent, praise microtransaction policies. But I want to kind of dive in because I think it actually came out last week, the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare game. Pretty sure it launched last week.
Yeah, something like that. Last week or week before.
So I've been doing some research and listening to stuff, and it's no secret. I think we actually talked about it too a couple years ago, last year or whenever, a couple months back, when Call of Duty Black Ops 4 came out and you had to pay $1 for a red dot sight.
Right.
And there was a $28 melee weapon.
Jesus Christ. What the fuck? Yeah, that's egregious.
Not to mention that there were loot boxes. But apparently they launched the I think it was World War II that created such a big hubbub about it. Call of Duty Call of Duty World War II launched, and the devs apparently claimed throughout all of its press release there's not going to be any loot boxes. We don't plan on doing loot boxes. It's just going to be cosmetics, blah 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 blah. And I guess like couple months ago, they dropped loot boxes into the game. Kind of just snuck them in without making a big deal about it. And apparently, a couple weeks ago, everybody threw a hissy fit, and they're like, well, Modern Warfare is not going to come out with any loot box systems. We promise there's not going to be any loot box systems. We're just going to have a cosmetic-only form of microtransaction. And then some Twitter user who has access to the game's beta kind of leaked on Twitter. He's like, hey, you guys like weapon blah 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 blah, these attachments, these blah 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 blah, all behind a paywall, loot boxes. And one of the art designers came out and kind of tore him up. He's like, well, we can assure you that you need to put your faith in official facts and not informationless rumors or blah 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 blah. This is the way it's gonna be. And we need to stop pretending that, problems actually exist when they don't. And as far as I'm aware, I feel like it would have made a much bigger deal, a much bigger splash in the water if there were loot boxes at the game's launch. But I would like to reinforce that apparently this would not be the first time they said no loot boxes and then waited a couple months and put them in. Because here's why they do that. If you launch a game that doesn't have loot boxes in it at launch,
more people get it.
More people are going to buy it, and you're going to get better reviews.
Right.
So they wait for that honeymoon phase to go away, where people buy the game and review the game. And then, a couple months in, when the freshness of the game has worn off a bit, then they roll out the loot boxes.
Right. So
just take that with a grain of salt, because apparently Activision is very greedy.
As far as the game goes, it's more back to the roots of the old Call of Duty formula, which makes it, in my opinion, better. It's not trying to be something that it isn't.
Well, that's good, but
it's good gameplay. But I mean, we'll see what happens in the future. Modern gaming depresses me.
Well, it started with this whole pay to win movement. Right. What they won't call pay to win, they'll call games as a service. Right. They'll hide it behind the games. And I'm going to be honest too. There is a difference between games as a service and pay to win. Games as a service is a very okay business model, but
whenever you start locking gameplay features away,
or paywall, like
paywalls,
content,
paywalls, gameplay features, straight up bonuses.
Well, and
you can pay $5 to get this gun that shoots faster and does more damage.
That is, yeah. And the whole loot box thing,
that's not a service.
And I don't know how EA's really the only ones that have gotten in trouble for this. Loot boxes are gambling. It is a slot machine. You pay money, You roll the dice. And you either, you get stuff every time, but the value, granted, you applying a real-world monetary value to an item digitally in-game, but the point is, you may get something for $5, Nate, that's better than what I got for $5.
Yeah,
And
well,
now
you
I'm
can suck
pissed.
it.
Well, I'll suck on the $5 that I didn't spend on the fucking loot box.
Well, good for you.
I'll actually go buy a meal with it.
Go to
Meanwhile, I
McDonald's.
have this dope-ass red dot site.
Yeah. If I save up long enough, I might be able to buy the hammer.
Got this dope-ass red dot site. It's got a heart, and it's on my MP40 in World War II. Yeah, buddy.
World War II.
Yeah.
Call of Duty World War II?
Yeah.
The one that came out like last year?
I don't think they had red dot sites in that game.
I don't think they do. I'm just saying.
Well, if you pay, you can have anything in the game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's true. That would be a
Wouldn't surprise me if they
decided
added that
advantage.
into a loot box.
That would be a decided advantage, though. Look, I have this M1 Garand, and I don't have to use
Iron sights.
iron sights. I have a red dot.
And look, again,
You know what would be awesome, though? Is a red dot sight that's, the chevron principle, where you have the chevron and the point of the chevron is where you're supposed to aim. But instead of that, it's just a middle finger, and the top of the middle finger is your aim point.
Oh my god. Yeah,
That'd be pretty good.
That's what I liked about Battlefield 1 is it was an even field. Everybody had iron sights and scopes. It was pretty nice.
And I don't recall a tremendous amount of microtransactions in Battlefield 1. Although I will say...
They did have microtransactions.
It was all
for-
cosmetics, though.
cosmetic.
Yeah. I will say, apparently Battlefield 5 is having a real hard time
No,
right
it
now.
wasn't completely cosmetic. You could unlock classes and weapons without playing the game.
Battlefield 5's having a hard time. They missed sales by a lot of copies, somewhere in the millions. They came out and said that a couple months ago. And what I think is funny is they don't know why,
I would have bought Battlefield 5.
but they told you not to.
Yeah. I would have
Like,
bought
they're
Battlefield
confused.
5 if the PR wasn't so fucking terrible around it.
Because, like...
I didn't have any problem with any of the controversies that were going on. I didn't have anything like
but
that.
it was the way they handled
then-
it.
Yeah, and then their fucking PR guy, who they thankfully fired, or he retired. I don't think they officially fired him, but
Certain positions you don't ever get fired. You just step down.
You leave.
You just leave.
he stepped down. But I mean, yeah, there's just all these controversies and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, I disagree with that. I agree with that. And then somebody in the PR department is just like, well, if you don't know any better, you're a fucking idiot. You shouldn't buy our game. And I'm like,
All right.
I fuck you too.
I just think it's funny that they like there has to be a bit of confusion in their head office. They're like, why didn't we sell why did this game not sell? And somebody's probably sitting behind the desk going, well, we did tell them not to buy it if they disagreed with it.
It's like if they have a problem with our direction, we told them not to buy it. So I guess a lot of people had a problem with our direction.
I'm so glad that actually ended up hurting them, though. Like, when you tell everybody... First off,
Whenever you talk down to your demographic, and you call them dumb, and you call them uneducated...
When you're honestly the one that's uneducated, if you think that women were running around with cybernetic enhancements on the front lines in
with
World War II.
Fucking prosthetic arms shooting guns on the front lines. Not saying there were never any women in World War II, even when it comes to battlefield, battlefield.
I'm not saying there's a problem with that in the game.
It's a game.
It's a game. But when you're like, well, when people point out that it's historically inaccurate and you tell them that they're wrong, and if they truly believe it's historically inaccurate to not buy the game, you kind of deserve what's coming for you.
You're uneducated. You shouldn't buy it. Okay.
Nat says everything about Battlefield 5 is scuffed. I don't doubt it.
I I played the beta, and I really actually enjoyed the gameplay, and I would have loved, especially since they've probably patched a lot of things that were probably wrong with the game. I would probably have a lot of fun playing that game.
I don't remember the number, but the game is struggling. Like as far as content's concerned, I guess they took Rush out completely.
They don't have the fucking means to do it right now.
But Rush is only here apparently off and on for time limited events. Like a staple Battlefield game mode is only here and there.
That's really unfortunate.
The Battle Royale that they announced didn't come out at launch, I don't think.
And
I'm pretty sure it's
not great.
Not good. And then the number of maps that it launched with is significantly lower than previous games, like by half.
Yikes.
Of the launch maps.
So like 3 maps?
It's like no, I don't remember. I just know that it's significantly less. Like the other games launched with like 9 or 10, something like that.
I don't think they launched
between
that
8
many,
and 10. I think 8 sounds about right.
I think
around
it was around 8. It was like,
and I think Battlefield 5 launched with like 4 or 5.
Oof.
Like not a lot of maps. Apparently they still don't have tank paints, and they've been talking about tank paints for ages.
They don't have vehicle skins?
Yeah, I don't think they've got tank skins yet.
Really? Wow.
Nat says, just looking at the single player, we wanted to tell more untold stories of World War II by not telling them at all. The netcode is a joke in a very random manner, and tanks are the first 5 hits that actually register wins. I mean, planes are a complete balance mess where nothing can stop the British planes. God, it sounds like another aviation game we've played before.
Nothing could stop the British planes? Are you kidding me? What? The BF-109 and the Spitfire are almost, like, if you look at
the same fucking plane,
they're almost like equal. But when it comes to armament, the BF-109 blows the shit out of a Spitfire. I mean, even with one 20mm in the nose, but they had like 3 in the nose.
I'm just so glad that when they told people not to buy the game, it actually bit them in the ass.
Nobody bought the game. Oops.
Maybe the next time they launch a Battlefield title, they'll have a meeting, be like, look, the fans are not stupid.
Yeah, don't tell them not to buy the game, because they'll actually listen to you.
They added tank hunter planes with the AT gun in the front.
Ooh. That sounds fun, actually.
Again, there were certain aspects. I played the beta, and I thought the beta was a pretty good game, but I like
the mechanics, but if they had the things to fix the netcode and all that good stuff, but I mean the mechanics of the game brought it back to what I liked about Battlefield, and I was gonna have a lot of fun with it. And then they were like, "Don't buy the game," and I was like, "If you insist."
Don't have to tell me twice. Nat says, but much like every other vehicle in the game, the British version is slightly better better in every way. Interesting. I feel like the German stuff should be slightly better in every way.
Definitely.
Or significantly better in every way, because
depending on what it is, for sure.
I mean, tanks.
Well,
they were pretty well known for their tanks and their aircraft. They were pretty big force to be reckoned with.
They're talking about the American tanks versus the German tanks. The only reason we stood a chance is because we had 5 Shermans for every Tiger they had, or something like that.
It was that, and we also did some really unorthodox style of tank warfare because the Americans.
We had choice, didn't we?
Well, I mean, there's that, and the Americans had no fucking clue what they were doing. Because by the time we put tanks in World War II, the Germans and the British in North Africa had been going at it for like 3 years.
That's true.
And then we show up at the last year, and it's like, here we are with big metal boxes with giant guns on them. Yeah.
I had never thought about that before.
And doing really dumb things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And the Germans were like, well, fuck.
Nat said that the tank killer plane cannon thing shoots 3 times faster on the British variant than the German.
Why would you even implement something like that?
Because They
bias.
Do you
decided
just want
no,
the
they
German team to lose all the time? That doesn't sound like a fun game.
they decided that since they were just going to be historically inaccurate on one front, they might as well just shove it up the ass of every other front
Yeah,
and
and
be
the
like,
Germans never stood a chance at all.
World War II was a joke. I don't even know
What
why
hap-
the Germans put up such a fight.
Like, yeah, what happens whenever they add the Americans in, since it's probably an American studio? And
They
here's
just
the-
come in and destroy
It's just gonna be,
everything.
America.
Here's the
fuck yeah.
P-51, and instead of having 8 or 6 50 cals, it actually had 56 50 cals.
Oh god.
Historically, the Tiger tank was an unstoppable force if you fought it head-on, except in the game, it's the most underpowered tank because it's the slowest, biggest, and it fails when all tanks rely on the first 5 hits. Yeah, that's pretty shit. Pretty shit.
Pretty sure the the Russian tanks, if I remember correctly, had a lot of mechanical issues. And
The
stuff.
Russian everything in World War II had a lot of mechanical issues. War
They were talking
Thunder
about how
just...
they would like transmissions would often break and they just leave them because they would cost too much to fix them.
Yeah, the American tanks, though, they didn't have that great a track record when it came to mechanical
No.
stability either.
But, like, that's... I mean,
They
Russia
pumped
just...
those things out like none other. Yeah, Russians didn't get their mechanical bullshit together until the end of the war. Until near
Contrary
the
to
end of
War Thunder's belief.
the war. Well, they just make it to where everything runs perfectly all the time, even the fucking Cromwells or not Cromwells, the Shermans. Even Shermans ran fine in War Thunder.
So, to kind of... Nat says, I've found that high-velocity rounds are a world of fun against plane. To kind of round it back to the microtransactions discussion, because there was some sort of controversy in Battlefield 5 about microtransactions, but I don't remember what it was because I didn't buy the game because I quit caring about the game because they told me not to buy the game.
I just followed their advice.
I do still believe that there is a presentable way to do microtransactions in gaming that is not shady, it's not greedy, it's not any sort of slimy business practice, and we praise them all the time, but it's because they earn the praise, and that's rare with Sea of Thieves.
All cosmetics.
Every
Nothing-
bit of it is cosmetic. Every single bit. And so I'm gonna breach my NDA here for just a second to provide
Oh, man,
context.
you're gonna get sued.
So next month we're getting item skins in the Emporium, the Pirate Emporium. It's a theme of skins for equipment sets. Again, skins, cosmetics
Right.
for your equipment. There is a huge thread floating around right now about somebody's like, the game's broken, this is broken, that's broken, you're not adding any new content to the game, all you're doing is breaking your promise on the Pirate Emporium by adding equipment skins. I would like somebody, please, to point me to where Rare ever said that the Pirate Emporium would just be ship liveries, emotes, and pets.
I mean, even so, why does it matter that they're not?
Because for some reason, there's this large number of people that play Sea of Thieves that believe that that game's progression is cosmetics. Like, they believe that the progression of the game is based on cosmetics. And I don't even know what that concept means. How do you have a cosmetic-based progression system? What the fuck even is that?
I don't know, man. Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense in a way if you think about it, because I mean, the farther you increase your rank in a specific thing, the more cosmetics you unlock.
But it's like that in any game.
Well, that's the only real sense of progression you get in the game. So
Yeah, but look, when we're sailing around and we meet somebody, I don't look at their coat and go, damn, he's further along in the game than I am. Do you want to know why? Because the cosmetics are not the progression system. And there are plenty of cosmetics that you can get without progressing in the game. Just out of the box, load into the game, you can go and buy them. It's not hard. Just play the fucking game. But never did Rare say that it was just going to be pets, it was just going to be ships, and it was just going to be emotes. They said that that was what was coming at launch of the Pirate Emporium. They said that these 3 things were going to be there, but they've always made it clear that they plan on expanding the Pirate Emporium because, again, it is their source of games as a service income. And I feel like it is the most unintrusive system for microtransactions to date in a game. You know, when you only have stuff available in a premium store.
Yeah, premium store, and
you can't buy in-game stuff with real money. You can only buy stuff off of the Pirate Emporium. And the game doesn't annoy you every 5 minutes by going, hey, go to the Pirate Emporium, there's new stuff. You have your little news blip on the homepage of the game, but it doesn't like lock your screen until you click out of it. It's just there. It exists. You can use it if you want. But you don't have to. You don't feel forced to. Whereas even when Forza had microtransactions, and I still think they do, but they've gone away from... They had a token system where you could pay real money and buy tokens, and the tokens could be used to buy cars cheaper. But even when you did that, you would look at... When you preview the car in the auto show, you would see the credit cost right next to the token cost. Like, they're reminding you that you can buy stuff with real money. Fallout 76 is one of the most annoying premium store editions ever because you can view stuff in the camp building screen that you don't own from the Atomic Shop. And if you go to put it down, it pulls it up in the Atomic Shop and it's like, here you go, would you like to buy it? No.
Fuck you. How dare you dangle this in front of my face like that?
But Rare has done a fantastic job with the Pirate Emporium because it's there. It doesn't annoy you that it's there. It doesn't affect your day-to-day gameplay. And most of all, they don't lock features behind paywalls, and you know exactly what you're buying when you buy it. You're not buying a chance at something. You are buying it.
Exactly.
And then...
Precisely.
You've got the people like me that are... Nat says there are a lot of idiots in the world. A lot of them work at DICE and Ubisoft. And EA.
Apparently Bethesda, too.
And Bethesda.
You missed the whole first part of the podcast where we were ragging on Fallout first.
You ought to go back and watch the first half. You'll get a good laugh. But... Rare is one of the few pro-consumer / gamer developers that are out anymore. I mean, it's sad, but it's true.
We'll see how long that lasts, because we said the same thing about Bethesda not too long ago.
I know. But Rare has they started well, and they've just been on the rise since the launch of this game. You know, anytime they made a mistake, they 100% turned around and rectified it and made every change they could to ensure it didn't happen again. And there's a large number of people like myself, and I mean, you don't have anything against the Pirate Emporium, do you, Nate?
No, not really. I mean, the ship cosmetics might be a little...
They're a little steep.
Expensive.
But
you don't have... I mean...
You don't have
cosmetic.
It's just cosmetic.
The price of these monkeys are too damn high.
The pets are about where I'd expect them.
$5. You get a pet. Cool. Nice.
But it doesn't bother you. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother you. I'm in support of it because, again, and this is where the community gets real angry with each other. How many content updates, massive content updates, did we get for free?
A ton.
We got Hungering Deep.
The game doesn't even look the same.
No.
As when we first bought it.
We got the Hungering
Deep.
Deep.
We haven't spent a dime.
We've got the Cursed Sails. We had the Forsaken Shores. We had Smuggler's Fortune. We had the Anniversary update, which was huge. Then we had the Festival or the Fort of the Damned that added this new skeleton fort. And all we did was bought the game.
If somebody bought the game when it first came out and played it for a bit and was like, this game's boring, and they came back and played it, they think this is like the Sea of Thieves, the second game.
Yeah.
It's not even, doesn't even seem the same anymore.
Because, and the reason I bring this up is because when I bought the game, when you bought the game, what were you buying? Like when you bought it, You knew what you were getting, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, okay, look, it's a
create your own adventure.
create your own
pirate.
adventure open world pirate game.
Yeah.
That's what it was advertised to be. And it was $60 at launch, which again, I will admit was a little steep for what it was. But I've gotten my $60 worth easily, and then some. But there are tons of people that defend the whole argument against the Pirate Emporium because people be like, look, you know, they've given you all these free content updates and they haven't charged you a dime for them. They've got to make money back somehow. And everybody else, there's a ton of people that's like, well, I did pay for them.
Did you?
Did you?
In what way?
And they're like, well, I bought the game and that paid for it. And I ripped this dude apart on one of the forum posts. I'm like, no. When you paid $60 for the game, you bought a game that was released as it was advertised with all the features it was said to include. All of the expansions were icing on the cake. You did not pay for those. You bought Sea of Thieves. You did not buy Sea of Thieves plus Hungering Deep, Cursed Sails, blah, 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 blah. That stuff wasn't even announced until a couple months after the game came out. So don't use the whole I already paid for it excuse, because you didn't. They got your money for the first purchase that you made, which was the game, and nothing after that. And I'm sorry, but your $60 does not pay for the production of 10 expansions. It just doesn't.
Right.
I am 100% in support for the Pirate Emporium, although I agree, ship cosmetics are a little steep. But I don't buy them. I don't want to spend $30 on a ship cosmetic. Guess what? I fucking don't. It does not impact my game in any way. And for those of you that don't buy pets, like you don't feel like you're missing out on anything. You know why? Because the feature itself is not locked behind the paywall. You can interact with my pet, or Tyler's pet, or Orange's pet, or Nat's pet, like it's your own.
I mean, you can interact with it, but it's not.
It's not a game changing.
It's still cosmetic, pretty much.
It's an extension of yourself.
Yeah.
So this whole argument against those microtransactions, it baffles me that people can be so against their implementation of microtransactions, but they don't say a fucking word about EA or Bethesda or Activision Blizzard or whatever. Rare is the least of any of your evils.
Yeah, at least you're not buying ridiculously priced cosmetics or, besides the ship cosmetics, or, actual gameplay items.
Yes, you're getting reasonably priced, except the ship cosmetics.
I mean, I might not buy any of the skins, but I mean, I've got a pet. Cool.
And you're happy
with that. I'm happy with that. Probably won't buy any of the ship cosmetics, but
the same people, here's the thing too, the same people that were complaining about the Pirate Emporium being implemented and blah, 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 were also the people that were complaining that the pets had no functionable purpose in the game.
Really?
They wanted the birds or the monkeys to be able to go and fetch fruit off of islands for you. And I'm like, you dense motherfuckers. That is pay to win.
Yeah, that's a gameplay feature that actually gives you a bonus over somebody who hadn't spent $5 on a thing.
Nat says, ship cosmetics never bothered me whatsoever because I'm always on somebody else's, my ship. Anyway, the $1 per hour measurement is nice. Sea of Thieves would be like a $120 game given how much fun just sailing and getting immersed can be. I 100% agree with that. And honestly, if it's $1 per hour, then I've probably gotten a household's value worth of money out of Sea of Thieves because I have no way of tracking that, but I'm afraid to look at how many hours I've spent in that game.
Probably way too much.
But it's fun. And I mean, it's a good game. I'm happy to support a developer that does not heckle me for money all the time. When you get to a point as a developer where your audience feels like you're reaching for their wallets to get their money, you have crossed a line. And that's how I feel with EA. That's how I feel with Rockstar, and that's how I feel with Bethesda now.
Yeah, the good old Fallout first. $100.
That
$100.
locks shit behind paywall.
$100, please.
Oh, you want the unlimited stash? Yeah, that's $100.
You want to play with just you and your friends? $100.
Yeah, and it's so it.
You want a portable fast travel point? $100.
It's just saying that if a game is $60, you ought to get 60 hours of entertainment out of it. Well, like I said, if you're going dollar per dollar, I've probably gotten a couple $1,000 out of Sea of Thieves.
Dollar per hour. I've gotten a lot of hours of a lot of dollars of fun out of that.
But just to kind of wrap it up, you know, because we're running a little over, the whole microtransaction scheme just sucks. And I feel bad. I mean, I feel bad for myself for this, but people like me, like Nate, who bought the Tricentennial edition of Fallout 76. Me and Nick bought the fucking Power Armor edition. And Nick's been off and on, but Nate and I have supported this game through all of it. Like, we have defended Bethesda, like, look, you know, it's getting better. They're making changes. They're listening to feedback. And I just feel betrayed. And it's disgusting what they've done to people that, like, it's become a meme, but people are, like, it's floating around the internet. We so much appreciate all of the loyalty that you guys have had to the game over the past year, all of the rocky starts and controversies and buggy game and release. Give me $100.
$100, please.
So
just leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
It makes me feel like I was taken advantage of as a consumer, and it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I feel like I was used for and not
you used me for property development.
I wasn't compensated fairly for it at all.
Right. It's just a one-sided bargain.
They got my money, I got some gameplay, and then they're like, we want more.
Can I get more gameplay? No. I just want your money.
So, are we playing Forza? We played Forza the other night.
But she wants to drive the cars around. Beep, beep. Vroom.
I can't stream Forza either because I have to change my game settings down to 30 frames a second because the only place that I can stream in 60 FPS is through the Xbox broadcaster thing. Which is pretty fucking stupid. But I think that is the end of the Ragecast. It's been
a blast.
I hate the gaming industry even more than when we started. Support the good developers. Rare, CD Projekt Red, Obsidian, go fucking play Outer Worlds.
My brother has it.
It's getting rave reviews.
Have you played it?
I haven't. I won't buy it until it comes to Steam.
Well,
because I don't believe in the Epic Store.
How about
so?
Here's a good thing that that might sell you on it is my brother opened up the game, got to the character creation, looked through all the options that he could do with all his stats and stuff like that, and he's like, man, there's so many options I can do here. And then he got to the character creation where you make your character. He moved 2 sliders and then selected through a couple different tabs, and he's like, I'm gonna be here for hours.
But yeah, give your money to the pro gamer developers. CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk 2077, Rare with Sea of Thieves, Outer Worlds with Obsidian, support those guys. But we got to send the message to Bethesda because this shit has got to stop. Because they're not going to stop until it hurts them financially.
Boycott their next game.
Or their next,
make them lose millions.
Yep. So on that bright and cheery note, we're going to take off for the day. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us for the LAN Party Podcast, and we will see you next time.